We're celebrating Christmas this year via the misguided but good intentions of Jack Skellington in Disney's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff, and Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. As we're closing out 2022, we're bringing back Eric. We're one of our final shows of the year. We're gonna bring them back.
Bringing them all back.
We've been peppering him. Yeah, but we've been peppering him in throughout the year pretty regularly. You know, so I think it's only fair we get a sprinkle of Andrew Cremeans at the end.
Oh my God.
Absolutely!
Please don't get a sprinkle of Andrew Cremeans.
Just a sprinkling, a light dusting.
A light dusting's fine.
How about that? A light dusting.
Yeah.
Do you guys even get a light dusting in Florida? Is that a thing?
No.
Of snow? A light dusting?
1977, April of 1977 or something.
Not
like
in
that.
Tampa. I think maybe the Panhandle, Jacksonville area, maybe.
That's like a joke then, right? Oh yeah, light dusting. Yeah. Not even.
So is this is episode 101? Or
no, this will be
over 100.
Why not?
It could be.
Not?
Yeah,
I think it will be. Actually,
it's
you're right.
It's over 100. So congratulations.
I think it's you're right. You know what? It's gonna be 101. You're correct.
I just wanted to say congratulations because 100 podcasts is nothing to screw around with. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
It's a great milestone. You guys, I'm part of the Facebook group and it's growing. And
Andy, you know what? We didn't get to you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because on our 100th episode, we did have a wide cadre of previous guests, and you were not one of them.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a chance to acknowledge all your contributions to our podcast because we did that for each one of those previous guests, and you were one of the first ones. If not you were the first guest.
He was the first guest
yes.
we ever had.
Let me pull that up really quick. Let me do it. Let me do it like we did it in the Casablanca episode. I think it's only right that we give Andy the same treatment that all the other guests got, and how we did that in the
you didn't expect this, didn't you?
Now it's really going to be a sprinkle.
So Andrew Cremeans made his debut with us. He was our very first guest for episode 7, entitled Nirvana and the Rise of Grunge.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was 7 episodes in, which is the curse. I said this in the last in our episode 100. The statistic in podcasting is that most podcasts do not get past 7 episodes.
Wow.
So we had Andy on number 7, just as the luck, like the rabbit's foot. Like, okay, we get number 7 done. We rubbed that rabbit's foot, Andy, and we got it over the hump. And then it was, and then Andy joined us for a lot more. So Andy, thank you so much for bringing your love of music, hearing your story. You're the only guest that's had an episode devoted to you as the subject matter.
That's right. That's
you were the
right.
subject of one.
Bringing
and you were
your
the
love
guest.
of music, your love of darkness, horror,
not
just that subversive.
So not only did you guest on a podcast, but you guested on a podcast about yourself.
Nice. That was my
how much more meta? How much more meta does that get?
I specifically went out and did stuff for Metallica just so I could have my own podcast episode.
There you go.
How am I going to make this happen?
Like who do I need to connect with to get their attention?
Metallica. And it's such a blast again, kudos to you, man, for fulfilling that dream, and it's just so awesome for you. And we couldn't be. I couldn't be happier for you. I know Dean, same thing.
Yeah, we've been getting as Andy has been guesting on our shows. We've gotten updates about the amazing work that he's doing that you could see on Andrew Cremeans' art on Instagram. Go follow this dude. It is not a request. We are ordering the 3324 podcast army. Go ahead and find Andrew Cremeans' art on Instagram. See the great work that he's doing. He's been fulfilling lifelong dreams, and we couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
So when he makes time for us now, it's kind of like, oh, okay,
Oh, give me a break.
Andy's, is Andy available?
Oh no.
Who's he?
He didn't expect this much ass kissing, did he?
Something cool happened though. And on November 6th, it was a couple of weeks ago, there was a Hollywood, Florida show. Metallica played a show for, I didn't get to say this last time I was on the show. I was hinting at it, but I didn't get to tell what the actual story was. Metallica did a show for their original manager, John Zazula, and his wife, Marcia. They were the ones who found Metallica, along with, Anthrax and Ministry and all kinds of other bands. But they both recently passed away, and they live down there in Fort Lauderdale area, I think. And they did a show at the Hollywood Hard Rock. I'm pointing at the poster. You guys can't see it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got to do a poster for him and got to hang out and meet some of the other poster artists. And they had a blackened whiskey tasting, which was pretty awesome. You got a flight of whiskey before the concert, so everybody was feeling quite nice. And it was pretty great. It was the first time I was like, yeah, this is actually pretty good.
And then the whiskey. So wait. So what? Before we get to the whiskey, so you did the poster, but what happened with the poster? Because didn't they release? Sorry. Did they release a CD of that show?
Yeah, they ended up taking the poster and asking me to make it square so they could put it on the CD cover for the live shows. You can buy it off of their website, and it's all the digital copies that are floating around have it embedded into it. And so that was like, doing an album cover for Metallica was like, checking the boxes.
Are there any boxes left on stage playing air guitar?
No. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a new hobby or something. But
you're gonna have to create new boxes. You're gonna have to start creating new boxes.
True that. Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
Got to hang with Lars and Rob Trujillo at the Black and Whiskey tasting, and Rob Rob Dietrich is the guy who is the master distiller of blackened whiskey. Got to hang out with him for a little while. He is just such a cool guy, and hearing all the stories about how Metallica's got a huge gimmick with their blackened whiskey. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but it's brewed like regular whiskey, distilled. Yeah.
Distilled.
It's in the casks, in the big barrels and stuff like that. But they pump in the low frequencies of all the Metallica albums to disturb the stuff. So it's like literally made with Metallica's music. And and they have like a rye whiskey called Rye the Lightning. So
I was just gonna make a joke. You took it.
Oh no!
I was gonna say, are those casks riding the lightning? And
they invented the joke.
Yeah,
you can't take the credit for that one.
So they only play Ride the Lightning for that part, just to disturb the sediments and all that stuff or whatever. So
wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Man. Had a great time. Got to meet other poster artists and stuff, and there's a couple people there that follow me on Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, man, can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Why?" Sure, let's do it.
I know I probably said this before, and I've known Andy a long time, and but you made it happen, man. You pretty much everybody that you became a fan of, and you're a fan of a couple of bands that we've enjoyed over the years, and you did work for them, and you met them, and now this was like the ultimate thing for you. So this is just so cool, man. It's like every band that you love, you've actually met and
you got to work with them. So,
right.
So let me introduce you to an artist by the name of Jeff Lynne.
Oh.
So if you can get into him and you really start to like his material, maybe no, Eric, no.
No, why?
Too soon.
Why are you asking me? Ask him.
I can totally draw a jukebox UFO in a different position.
That's as easy as that.
Yeah.
All righty, let's get on with episode 101.
Right, I think we need to start talking about what we're here for. Right?
Well, we'll get there eventually.
But again, this is a very Andy Cremeans centric episode because I know this just happens to be is this one of your top 10 favorite films of all time? Would you say, or
not even including Christmas stuff, just as a film?
As a film. My wife and I's first date in October 1993 was to this movie, and we had our houses decorated with Nightmare stuff. Our first dog was named Zero, so it was like a kind of a visual representation of our relationship over the years and stuff like that. And it got to the point where we just have all of this crap everywhere, and we're like, okay, no more, but man, it's we'll talk about it more, but it's one of my favorites. Absolutely.
Cool.
Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, Henry Selick, you can't go wrong there.
All right, let's get it rolling with the stats as we normally do. So this was released on October 29th, 1993, which means Andy might have been in the theater on his first date that day or some point afterwards. But up until the end of 1993 was that first date, somewhere in there. We're not going to pinpoint you, but somewhere in there. Directed by Henry Selick, based on a story by Tim Burton, $24 million budget, and a $91.5 million box office. Very nice return, especially for stop motion kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which was,
yeah.
We'll jump into that a little bit of 1993. And then, soundtrack by Danny Elfman, and Jack Skellington's singing voice was also done by Danny Elfman, but his speaking voice was done by the fantastic Jerry Dandridge, also known as Chris Sarandon. Yep. We know him from Fright Night. Everybody else knows him
Princess
as
Bride and and Child's Play. He was the cop in Child's Play.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the deal there. So Andy, you were on this from the jump, 93.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, same thing.
I saw it the first time I saw it was in Suncoast when it came out on. So it was after, obviously, it was like a year after, when it was released on VHS. It was the very first time I ever saw it when we cracked it open to have it playing in the store. Yeah. But I was really appreciative of the return to form of stop motion, which nobody was really doing at that point. So I thought
it was definitely a lost art.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater as well because I was kind of right in the middle, and I'm looking at the Disney animated films filmography, right? And actually 93 was a very interesting year because there was not a major animated film that came out. It was very interesting because in 91 you had Beauty and the Beast, 92 you had Aladdin, 93 you had nothing. So you had The Nightmare Before Christmas. And then in 94 you had Lion King, and then it started like the Disney machinery really got going, where they had the schedule of getting one out per year, because then it was Lion King, Pocahontas,
right?
Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like they really kind of got the machinery rolling. But this was an odd thing because you had Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin, and then you had nothing ready. And Nightmare Before Christmas came out, and oddly enough, Nightmare Before Christmas actually was not released on the Disney imprint. It was released by Touchstone, which was their, because they felt it was a little too adult and a little too scary for kids. You're putting Disney on it anyway. Who cares who's distributing it? Right, Andy? I mean, does it really make it like? Did you care that it was a Touchstone film, that you might be a little scared? It still said Disney on it.
Yeah, I it's crazy. I was just having a conversation with somebody probably like last year where I was like, every single Halloween, Disney has two tricks up their sleeve. They have Haunted Mansion stuff and Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. It's been almost 30 years and they have not come up with anything else for Halloween. And I think that from what I understand,
does Frankenweenie count? No, honestly, because Tim Burton did a remake of Frankenweenie.
That's true. Yeah.
I never seen any merch for it, or I don't. Nobody's really talking about it that much, but very well could be some big fans. But I from what I've read recently, Tim Burton is very disenfranchised by Disney and won't work with them again, and that's one of the reasons why there hasn't been a sequel. Because they're all about sequels and they're all about money grabs and stuff. And it's like 30 years, and it's just as popular as it has the merch. Absolutely, still as popular.
Very, very iconic. Very for the goth kids, for the younger goth kids. It's kind of like your entree into that darkened color palette. As far as the sequels go, Henry Selick, the director, has said, "I'm up for a sequel if we can find a story, if Tim Burton would be into it." Chris Sarandon said, "Hey, count me in," but Tim Burton's kind of like, I don't want this to be like, the Jack Skellington Thanksgiving one where he goes to Turkey Town and then he goes into a different door. Like he really wanted to keep this as a special thing and not have it really get dragged into the ground. And it almost doesn't. It really doesn't, right, Andy? It's got they're really thin legs, but it's got legs of its own.
Absolutely. What's crazy is I we watch it once a year. We throw it on usually somewhere between Halloween and Christmas. And I was going to bring up the fact is this a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie? I don't know if you've discussed that or not.
Yeah.
Well, let's go there. Let's start.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would argue, and
Open
this,
it up.
I've had very many years to think about this because everybody fights about is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Nobody gives a crap. The issue though is Christmas as a motif is so potent that it's distracting in a movie. If you're going to have anything Christmas related, it's a Christmas movie because you can't not focus on it. So it's like
That's true.
Gremlins is like a movie about little monsters, but there's Christmas. So yeah, it's a Christmas movie now.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon or Home Alone, it's like there's Christmas is going on in the background, so it's a Christmas movie. It's like not really like that with Thanksgiving or it's a Christmas is like bright red in your face lights, snow. So I would say that it is very dark and very Halloweeny, but can very, very, very well be a Christmas movie in my opinion because it's in the title, by the way.
I think it is because it takes place the day after Halloween is when the film starts.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're celebrating, hey, great job on Halloween. And he's kind of like he's in depression, Jack Skellington. Yeah. So even though the movie ends on Christmas Day and isn't particularly, it's not about Christmas in the way
it's meaningless in terms. It's not a Christmas like message.
Yeah, it's hard to pin. Exactly, it's hard to pin down where they're going with it because it's just about him figuring out how he's going to kind of take over Christmas and how he's going to, he wants to experience it himself. So, it's not the traditional heartwarming Christmas story,
but yet somehow the Christmas spirit, if you will, it's not it's an unspoken thing, but in the context of what. By the end of it, he realizes what's real important to him, all this time in front of him. And all the classic Christmas stories are the same kind of theme running, right? You got, and I would say this much too, like, now that we're always commenting on how that much earlier every year, Christmas is kind of encroaching on, like, even on Halloween. I would argue that this film kind of bridges that gap in that sense. Cause it's like, really, cause it's like, Christmas to me, like Halloween is like a celebration of the horror and the dark. People get to dress up and be something they're not, that they're not. There's sort of an escapism to Halloween, but like Christmas time, I would say it's if you think about it, it's kind of dark because that's the time when you're really examining your life and the year that just passed, that the year's coming to a close. So traditionally, like a lot of the Christmas stories are darker. And darker because there's a something heavy happening to the character or
something missing in their life.
Right. So I would say to me, Christmas is just as dark, if not darker than Halloween. And that, so there's a kindred thing happening there. Like, there's a simpatico thing. And I guess, maybe Tim Burton had that in mind when he was referencing all those old classics like the Rankin Bass, because let's face it, the older you get, you watch those things, as kids, we ate that shit up.
Yeah.
But they were fun. They were, whatever. But the older you get, you realize just the stories are just, there's a lot of innuendo there. There's a lot of metaphor going on there. Like what's
bullying, fair amount of bullying going on
absolutely.
in Rudolph,
Yeah. It's like real world kind of shit, happening. Yeah. And it's like, it again, it's that sense of darkness there that, that he had most definitely drew upon. I think even like Santa Claus is coming to town, like the whole, like, German expressionistic, like Burgermeister character, like he put that into the film. Like if you look at Halloween Town and Nightmare, it's like it has that motif, and then Christmas is more Dr. Seuss. They say like at the color.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this film absolutely
there's so many influences there. Yeah,
Charles Adams, Edward Gorey. Those artists, this imprint is all over that. It's kind of like that. Those two artists mainly come to life. It's kind of even down to where the stuff, even the landscapes and everything look like they're drawn. Of the way they kind of texturize it. It looks like it was drawn, come to life, and they are definitely those are the two main influences I see. Was the work of Charles Adams and Edward Gorey. More so probably Edward Gorey. It's got that because Edward Gorey has like a lot of that thin line kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Andy, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Am I on the right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Explaining it the right way.
What's crazy is that just as an aside, that Henry Selick recently just came out and was talking about how how he is kind of pissed that Tim Burton's getting all the credit for the movie, because nobody talks about Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas. He was like 90% of the production was this guy. And Tim Burton's idea, his characters, his children's book, which the children's book is very thin and it's very flimsy, and the story is it's like a poem. Like there's no there's no character arcs or any of that stuff or whatever. And Henry Selick brought the team together that put all this stuff together. And Tim Burton has a very, very illustrative 2D style of artwork. And somebody's job had to translate that into 3D. How am I going to make this sketchy little like loop-de-loop thing look like a mountain that's also sketched? So like nobody talks about the artistry of like translating Tim Burton's sketches into 3D. And nobody really talks about Henry Selick having such a huge part of it. But like, Tim Burton, it wouldn't exist without his characters. There's no question about it. I mean, especially Jack. I mean, it's straight out. Tim Burton is a singular presence. Like I said about Ozzy on the last episode I was on. Like nobody is like Tim Burton. Like he came and said, "Here I am," like with Beetlejuice and that. Like it's just like or even Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's like, how do you make Pee-wee dark? And then like there's Large Marge and all this stuff. Like he's just his style cannot not exist. It's just there. It's just
you're watching something by him. It's
right.
A lot of his stuff feels like it's in a shared. Even this, it feels like it's in the same universe as Batman.
Yeah,
like if at all the art deco, the just the way those things are. The set designs, they all even Planet of the Apes, it all feels like a shared universe. And you're right, even Andy, even Tim Burton had said, my name is only on this as a marquee thing, because he gave the germ of the idea, and then they had to write a screenplay around this whole thing. But putting Tim Burton at the time, he was a hot commodity coming off of Batman Returns, so he was still like the golden boy of Hollywood. So putting Tim Burton's
he was the
Nightmare
prestige
Before Christmas, like he presents it.
Yeah.
But you're right, all the artwork and all the artisans, all the model building that went into this.
Let's not, like stop motion is a very painstaking thing, and it's like Tim Burton said, he's like, I don't even want to do that. It's like I don't want any part. It's too long and laborious. Like there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And he, and man, there's a lot of work that goes into that. I'm a big this is all going way back to like King Kong and 33 and Ray Harryhausen and all this kind of stuff. I mean, when you realize just how many hours it takes to make one thing move for not even 5 minutes, it's like
they
so
didn't
intense.
Even they didn't even CG like in fire or anything like that. It's all reflected off of glass. Like they went all out on this stuff. But not only was it the original story flimsy, and they were writing the script around that, they were writing the script around what Danny Elfman was writing as songs based on the flimsy book. They said, okay, well, I know I need Jack is depressed song, so he writes this song, and I know that he's going to be introduced to Christmas, so he starts writing music while they're doing pre-production. And then they're like, he would come in with song ideas and say like, well, what if we had a part here where this happened? And they would just add that into the script and stuff. So Danny Elfman is just as much of a writer of this movie as the screenwriters, and Tim Burton is such a collaborative effort, but it's like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. I love Tim Burton, but man, there's a lot of people getting kind of hosed.
So especially in light of that, if you're saying that Danny Elfman is bringing in lyrics or bringing in story ideas, it's not like it's a film where you can, we'll write these lines in for the actors. They would have to build stuff based on that. Then if he came in and said, well, I've got a song where he's in the North Pole and doing this, well, now they have to like conceptualize that, right? Pre-visit, pre-visualize, get it figured out what it's going to look like, and then how big is it going to be? What's the build going to be like? So it's not as easy as someone walking into the set and saying, oh, I've got a couple of extra pages of script. We're going to do this.
You're creating mood. You're creating you're creating emotion. A lot of it
more work
on the songs too. And did he get that kind of credit? No, I mean,
Well, there's a a documentary on Disney Plus series, and I forgot what it's called, but it's about props. It's like this guy collects props, movie props and stuff, and he goes to famous people, and he hangs out with Danny Elfman for an episode to talk about some of the original puppets from Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff. And he tells these stories about like, yeah, we didn't even have a song here. I started writing it before the script was even done or whatever. But and Danny Elfman is such a genius anyway. And this is only like the second or third thing he's ever done for a movie. I mean, he was with Oingo Boingo and stuff, but he did Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He did Beetlejuice, I think, before that, and
Batman.
Maybe 3 or 4 or 5. So he was like building up and stuff. But
did he do Dick Tracy too?
I think so.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did Dick Tracy, and he did. I'm sorry, he did the March of the Dead for Army of Darkness, Andy.
That's right.
Just that one song. He only did the one song for Army of Darkness. They could only afford Danny Elfman for one song. I said we can't afford you for the whole.
And again,
score.
a very, very like Tim Burton, a very distinct style. Danny Elfman. You just know it. Yeah,
he has,
especially back then, it had a sound.
Yep.
There's a musical motif called Dies Irae, I think that it's called, that Mozart had, where it's like associated with death. It's like the tritone, like that. It's like he even like put the musical motif is death in the dead town, and so it's just so cool. I mean, I love him so much. He's nuts, but he's great. But I mean, like, I don't know how the movie, because I was just watching, I had it on the background again just to refresh my memory because it's been a couple months, but there are scenes in that movie for long periods of time, maybe 10 minutes straight, where there is no sky. It's black. Everything is black, and everything is colorless. It's completely desaturated. There's like little hints of browns and blues here every once in a while. Yeah. There's a green water at one point, but
I didn't notice that actually. Just let me jump in. I didn't when I watched it today, because so much of the beginning of the movie takes place in Halloween Town. Yeah, and then when Jack finally goes to the North Pole, and then when he comes back, it's like, oh my God, everything is so muted. These colors look like they're faded. Yeah, and it really was like a stylistic choice that a director would make of let's like in Oh Brother, like let's desaturate these colors, or let's kind of change that, and to do that with stop motion, to have that much of an attention to detail of, well, we want these models to be painted in a different color scheme, right? We want this to have so when they're all together, this set has a totally different look to it than the set next to it, which is the Christmas one or North Pole. So
to have those models painted so dark in those colors too, and then of course the lighting is most important. How do you light this? How do you get all of that saturate? How do you get all the different blacks? And
it's got to be semi glossy, a little bit glossy, just so everything reflects. But Jack's entrance is one of the best entrances of all time, in my opinion, where they're singing about this guy. We don't know who this guy is or whatever, and he like comes out of the water just kind of smiling, and the camera raises up and everything, and like everybody's kind of dancing in the background. It's just like every time I see it, when I saw it in the theater, I got goosebumps. Just talking about it. It's just such a good entrance to, I don't know. And I think that what specifically for me, we can talk about this more later, I guess, but Eric has known me for 30 years basically. Yeah. And I am Jack in a lot of areas. Like I find something like, I can't just experience anything. So if I see something, I've got to break it apart. Well, how did they do that?
That's true.
So it's, and even when it comes to things like in a spiritual nature, it's like interesting reaction, but what does it mean? So I've got to figure, I've got to like,
you got to figure it out. You were always
that questioning nature.
You were always
questioning.
Absolutely. You're always 200% in that vein. Sure. And I remember when I first saw the film, before I met you, one thing I didn't care for the movie was the music and how I didn't appreciate the artistry of it. But when I met you, you made me realize, and I saw things that I never saw before. So in a way, you kind of helped my progress over the years of learning about film, in a sense, because you're looking at things from an artist's eye. And so I totally appreciate that. Oh, and so this film is like, it's so admired, and it's so, you know, like we talked about The Crow like that as well.
Yeah.
But it's like, it just, all these things, because I know you, it's like, oh man, I gained such an appreciation for this stuff so much more.
I just love, I love how he just can't allow himself to love it. Like he's like, I've got to experience this, and the only way I can experience this is to try to take it over, and then it all falls apart, and then he's just like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to leave it alone, sort of thing. But that's what connected with me, because I'm the same way. I you know, would take apart my radio.
Yeah, it's the quest for knowledge, right? And that's kind of what he's on, as he discovers, you know, for those that never saw it, you know, Jack Skellington is the Pumpkin King, so he's the king of Halloween. And I guess what we're assuming, or what we're learning, is that these other holiday icons are not aware of each other. Right. So the Easter Bunny is in Easter Town or wherever he is, but he's not aware that there's other holidays. They're only concerned with, you know, that, you know, their holiday.
Yeah.
Right. So the Easter Bunny, all he knows is getting ready for Easter and what he needs to do. So Jack happens upon this area in the forest where there's all these different portals to the different holidays, and he's enamored by the most ornate one, which is a Christmas tree, which sends him into Christmas Town, which is totally, if you wanted something that is the polar opposite as far as, you know, on the surface of the darkness of Halloween, of the bright colored lights and happiness of the holiday season of Christmas. And he's enamored that this is, and that's that centerpiece song, What's This? Of him kind of like that childlike,
that could be your
sense
song,
of wonder
Andy.
of
what is,
of seeing this stuff, right? You know, he's got that childlike sense of wonder of, you know, I've never seen this before. So what is, I don't know how to, almost like he doesn't know how to process this.
Yeah.
You know, the giving gifts and there's nothing under the bed. There's no monster under the bed. You know, this is very strange to me. I'm used to something totally different, you know.
Yeah.
Although the houses may look the same, the environment or what's going on is just totally foreign to him. And like Andy, I get, you know, that quest for knowledge is like, well, this is something. He comes back to Halloween Town and they're like, well, like, what? Like, you know, oh, so we're gonna, you know, like, oh, death and oh, we're gonna scare kids, and no, we're not gonna do any of that.
I think it's not only the quest for knowledge. It's like a lot of creative types are always like, okay, well, always on the search for the thing that's going to fix you. Like, I'm a little depressed. Maybe it's because I haven't discovered X yet. So let me, and then, okay, X didn't work. What about Y? Well, Y is not really working. Z, it's just that and so at the beginning of the movie, Jack is been doing Halloween Town for like hundreds of years. I mean, you have no idea really. And he's just like, what does it all mean? I don't know what it means anymore. I'm just lost. And, you know, he like, this is the thing that's going to fix me, you know? And then at the end, he's really like, no, you know, off to the next thing. So, you know,
And Halloween Town is populated with some very interesting characters. And I think we should probably talk about some of those. The one thing I noticed today, you know, it might be very probably elementary to Andy, but there's a trio of vampires that are always kind of hanging around. I noticed that during the day they're using umbrellas.
Yeah.
To shield themselves from the sun, from the daylight. Never at night they don't have during the day they're always walking around. They have these like little umbrella, obviously they're not covered, but they're always walking around with umbrellas. But then I was like, in the night scenes they don't, like, oh, because you know, the sunlight.
It's not only that, but like the sun's never really totally shining.
Yeah, it's never really. Yeah, but it's still like daylight, like the whole notion of them being out in daylight. So they have these little umbrellas to kind of give them some protection.
The cast, the characters, like, I mean, and they're all Tim Burton alumni. You know, like the mayor is Otho from Beetlejuice.
Yep, Glenn Shaddix or Shaddix.
And
the late Glenn Shaddix.
And Sally, of course, is
Catherine
O'Hara, and she's Locke. No, she's Stock.
Yeah,
she's the other girl. She's Lock, Stock, and Barrel. She's Locke.
And Huey Herman is one of them too. Paul Rubens. But it's just like, again, it's all Tim Burton alumni or whatever. But when I first saw the movie, I was kind of obsessed with they call him Behemoth, is the character. He's the big guy with the
accent. Is it?
Yeah, like Bunny. Yeah. I love it. I love that guy.
You know what I noticed? One, and this could be I think this might be a little nod to Charles Addams. there's like a zombie kid that looks like Pugsley from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
He's like but he's like a zombie Pugsley. He's got like the striped shirt and he's kind of little pudgy, but he's like a zombie version of him. And he's kind of like in a lot of the scenes. He's kind of like not a main character. He's in a lot of the scenes, kind of like walking around or hanging on somebody's back or something.
What's weird about that? All of the characters are whimsical and kind of cute in their own way. And that one, the kid you're talking about, is like the only like kind of tragic. Like you look at him and you're like, oh God.
He's like a zombie. He's like a dead kid. He's like dead Pugsley from the Addams Family. I'm like,
somebody famously said that all Tim Burton characters are cute until you realize what they probably smell like.
Wow, that's
all righty.
Interesting.
My favorite character, the one that I fell in love with, is Mr. Oogie Boogie.
Yeah.
I absolutely like when the movie got to that part with the whole like the casino type thing, like the poker and the dice, and he's just kind of gambling with people's lives and just like made out of bugs, and just his character, was so like all the other characters were kind of like sycophants of Jack, like, oh Jack, Jack's here, but not Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie was kind of like not really the villain, because he's not in it till the very end, but even he's afraid of Jack though. But I like Oogie. He's just, I love his song. I just really, I love the character. I love the character voice. I love him throwing the dice around, and it comes up snake eyes when he wants to crank the table to send them into the fire, and he hits it so it goes off the snake eyes.
I would love to know the story. Or maybe I don't, because if the story sucks, it's going to. But I would love to know the story of why he's scared of Jack. Why is Jack in charge? Like, how did he come to power? But I don't want to prequel.
Yeah.
With Jar Jar being.
Well, it's probably one of those, probably like one of those Lex Luthor Superman type things where Oogie Boogie's always going to be like the antagonist, even though, Jack probably tolerates him, but Oogie Boogie will always have his little machinations, but obviously not anymore because of one little thread that got caught.
I was so obsessed with the movie that I've seen it 4,000 times for the first 25 minutes. I've seen the first 25 minutes 4,000 times. I've seen the full movie probably 20 times, 50 times, something like that. Yeah, because Oogie Boogie's a great character, and the scene is great and stuff. But like by that point, it's out of the what I'm like when it gets more into the Christmas stuff, and you're trying to rescue Santa Claus and stuff. I'm kind of out of it at that point because I the stimulus, the stuff that I love, is kind of faded for a little bit. So I they put a lot of Oogie Boogie merchandise out there, and I never really grab any of it and stuff, but.
Well, do you think it? So do you think it ran out of steam in the back end of it, or?
Yeah, I think so. I just it was so clear cut. I mean, the right after the montage of like the kid pulling the head out of the Christmas present, the snakes under the tree. After that, it just kind of like, okay, we're gonna get to the end at some point or whatever. I don't know. It kind of drags for me a little bit.
I've heard a lot of comments about. I've read a lot of comments about people thinking that was like the coolest, like who wouldn't want that as a Christmas present? Those Christmas presents are so much cooler than what a normal present would be, like a baseball bat or a skateboard. With these you open the thing, there's a snake in there. It's something, So
I also like the professor, voiced by William Hickey.
William Hickey, who's in
Gone Again.
Gone Blessing.
It's the second time you've tried to poison me with deadly nightshade, Sally.
He's one of the best animated characters. So whoever animated him is a genius. Like he pulls his head open and like scratches his brain,
and then he cuts part of his brain out to make his bride.
Yeah,
he's finally someone I can have a conversation with, and he puts like
his lips are like mushy. Like
they're rippling, like they kind of ripple. And Sally, and it's funny because Sally is the love interest.
She's my favorite character.
I think she's
amazing.
When I was watching her today, she's probably the closest to the Rankin Bass aesthetic.
Yeah,
because she's got the like those eyes and her. She's the only one that has kind of lips that they kind of animate like the Rankin Bass, like Hermie. like where the
Right.
lips kind of move in that way.
Right. Yeah.
She's the only really real throwback character to that, like that owes anything to those Rankin Bass films. Everything else,
I agree.
all those
Yeah.
other characters are kind of very unique, even like the mayor with the spinning head. There's nothing like him. And there's nothing like any of the other ones, but Sally she's a very tragic character. It's just kind of and she's like the voice of reason. She's the one that sees, like,
Yeah. And
none of this is good for anybody.
You feel so sorry for her because she's just trying to get Jack's attention the whole time. And this is the most important thing right in front of him. And he doesn't see it. His hubris is trying to, do this and do that. And she's so beautiful. She's such a beautifully designed character, I think, too. The rag doll element, the whole.
Yeah, she throws herself out
off
the castle, and she's like in pieces on the ground. It's just
amazing.
It's like stuff with leaves.
Yeah.
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 It could be, this could be a little unsettling for really young kids to see something like that. Even a quote unquote doll, that happening too, because kids are very attached to their dolls and their toys and stuff like that. And God forbid you break an arm off a doll for a kid. It's a thing.
Right.
But so to see that in a cartoon form too, I could see where it could be a little upsetting. So I can understand the concern for the mature theme of some of that stuff, because it's already in a dark setting to begin with, and then you've got
it's very operatic. It's sort of very that melodramatic, operatic kind of feel. It has that sort of very, very goth. It really cultivated that audience. I mean, big time. And I would ask, like, what do you think? How many people would consider this a Halloween film versus a Christmas movie? What do you think the ratio is there?
I would say 90% Halloween.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
really?
think that, because that's when they put out all the toys and stuff, and I think people automatically associate it. But it definitely kept hot
because it's you know what, Andy? I'm sorry, because it's someone you can dress up as.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People don't dress up as Santa Claus for Halloween.
Yeah.
Right? People don't dress up like elves for Halloween.
Maybe this version of Santa, maybe.
But they dress up like Santa. Like they dress up like Santa during Christmas, and they dress up like elves during Christmas. But you don't see people dressing up like Jack Skellington during holidays with like a Santa thing on. You see them all during Halloween. So it's an interesting point you make there. I don't know. I mean, I would think that it skews towards a Christmas film, because that's the main crux of even though his journey and a lot of his time is spent mostly is in Halloween Town.
Yeah.
They're talking about he's talking about what the idea or he's trying to get across what the idea of Christmas is to everybody, or what he thinks the idea of Christmas is to everybody. Yeah. Right. So it's a Halloween philosophy it's a Christmas philosophy in a Halloween wrapper.
And sometimes, like I said, that Christmas spirit kind of creeps in there. And again, it's unspoken, but it happens. Like, it just, he realizes that at the end. Someone wrote an article. I just read it today. It was an essay on the film, and she was remarking about how meaningless the whole Christmas angle was, and I disagree with her assessment, because by the end of it, he does realize what's important, and that's the meaning of Christmas for me. For a lot of it gets lost, of course, with the commercialism and all that kind of stuff. But it just seems like that should be the meaning of Christmas.
Was it the meaning of Christmas, or was it I think Andy alluded to it, that it wasn't that he got his mojo back, right? That he understood that he can't take over Christmas. His job is to be the Pumpkin King, right? And that kind of like energized him, right?
Did anybody from Halloween Town help him get there, though?
No.
If it hadn't been for him trying to take over for Christmas, that kind of encroached, and maybe it's something, like I said, there's something there. Mm-hmm. We don't know, we don't see it, we don't hear it, but it does happen. Like, all of a sudden he realizes, hey, you know what? I messed up. And that's what we do at the end of the year. We're kind of like looking back on the year and saying, what did we do wrong? What did we do right? That kind of thing. So I get that message from it, so that, so to me, it starts as a Halloween. Like I said, it kind of bridges that gap where it's very much a Halloween feel, but then by the end of it, you're embracing the Christmas angle. At least for me, that's how I look at it. But
I was going to mention earlier about what you mentioned, Rankin Bass stuff. The stop motion I think anybody who's ever had a camera that does single frame things have tried, like, moved a snake across the table or something.
I did as a kid.
And you understand how impossible it would be to get an emotional response from something like that, right? Like timing, if I'm going to act and I'm going to do something like say something sarcastic or do a side glance at somebody and make the comedy timing good, how do you possibly do that by moving an armature around? And the crazy thing too is that Jack's head, the phonemes, the things like the shape of somebody's mouth when they're talking, I-E, I-O-U sort of stuff, is an entire head. So they're not switching a mouth out. Every single frame that they move him, they're switching a new head out that he has to talk. So it's like all of the different phonemes angry, all the different phonemes happy, all the different phonemes neutral, all of the different phonemes confused. And it's, you know, and you've got to do this. I mean, that's like the mayor, I think, had a little section you just took his mouth out and put his mouth in or whatever. But just like, again, the artistry of knowing and paying attention to this stuff. And they had stories of talking about how this is on film, so this wasn't digital. You weren't watching. You had to print the film and realize that, like, you know, at the end of the day, you've spent 8 hours on a thing and the light was wrong, or from yesterday the lighting got bumped overnight or something like that, and you'd have to do the whole thing over again. So it's just, man, what a complete pain in the ass.
It's a process of it's a process of patience. Is really what it is. I mean, you have to be in it to win it, to remember. You know, you said, you made an interesting statement about trying to convey emotion, and you have to do that frame by frame and remember where you left off, or what the frame before was, and how does it, you know. And nowadays with digital, they can just kind of look at it and say, oh yeah, okay, we'll just back that one out and insert this frame or whatever. When you're doing a film and snapping a frame at a time and having 5, 6, 8, 10 other characters that you're attending to making sure, like, and that's the thing, you could really watch this and say, oh, I want to see if one doesn't move or if they don't. Everything is accounted for. You know, they don't kind of leave anything behind where one guy's just kind of standing there like that. Like, no, everybody's kinetic, moving. Everything's in motion.
The whole town.
Which is just like that's a directing job.
Something falling over, something tipping, like little objects in the background. Sure.
That is a directing job of that. That is detail work to make sure that everybody's doing their job. Whoever's assigned to each character I assume they all have to make their move, get out of the way, snap the frame. Then they all have to go in, each person make their next, and it's got to make sense. Oh my God. It would be maddening. I don't think I could ever do it.
No. You can fix, you can go back and fix voiceover to match an animation mistake. That probably a lot cheaper to do that. But to time that kind of stuff to a song, like eyes glowing red and, like I'm the monster under your bed, like what my mouth just did, like eyes burning red. Like how do you line up? Because there's, R is for 2 seconds in red.
How long it takes to enunciate it.
Because you can't like play one frame of music to say, is he still doing the R sound? You can't do 2 frames of music. You know what I mean? It's like it's insane.
I would think in that case they would have to have for that probably the music first, because you're also talking a lot of choreography. To
That's what
match.
I mean, lining it up to the music. I mean,
oh my God,
in the 90s. Early 90s. It's insane. Like nowadays it would be all CG, even if like they insisted on making it stop motion or look stop motion, and they did it CG. They could do that kind of skippy kind of like look or whatever. But it's crazy to me also how almost every and I'm probably going to be wrong here by saying this, but at least in my mind, every other stop motion movie that's come out since has not really done very well, like Paranorman and James and the Giant Peach, and like there was one like kung fu like samurai one that was just a couple years ago that was like there was a big bug or something.
Well, there was like there was Coraline, and
Coraline.
The Corpse Bride.
Coraline was good.
Was another Tim Burton.
Coraline is excellent.
I was actually going to bring up James and the Giant Peach because that was the follow up, right? That was kind of this kind of kick started that notion of stop motion as something viable. They get the rights to James and the Giant Peach. Henry Selick directs it. The budget was like $38 million and it made like 37.5. So it did not live up to its expectations. But I liked it. I liked James and the Giant Peach a lot. I thought it was a really interesting take, and it was kind of like pushing, continuing to push that genre forward. And then I think after that tank, they're kind of like, okay, this is just, we could just make cartoons. And then Pixar was only 2 years away from this anyway with Toy Story.
Right.
So that was 95. So things were about to change anyway. As soon as Toy Story came out, then it was A Bug's Life, and we can do this kind of stuff, and we don't need to. It became just like now with Pinocchio that's coming out from Guillermo del Toro. It's an artistic choice now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
we want to. We want to do this for the art and for the challenge, not because we want to make a ton of money with this or whatever. It's more like that. It's more like an avant-garde thing of let's do stop motion because you don't have to anymore.
What's crazy is Corpse Bride on paper should be everything that I love. Like it's that creepy Tim Burton. It's got this and Danny Elfman music and everything else. And man, I've seen it a couple of times, and every couple of years, it's like when it's like Bloody Marys. I'll try it like every 2 or 3 years to make sure that I still hate it.
Yeah, check it in. I don't like it.
So man, I can't get through it. It's just so boring.
Johnny Depp was one of the voices, right?
Helen Bonham Carter, and
of course,
the same. He goes to his. Tim Burton goes to his bullpen for for those guys.
I like Wes Anderson's stop motion. Have you ever
Fabulous
seen
Mr. Fox?
That was great. And I liked Isle of Lost Dogs too. Isle of Dogs. I thought that was beautiful. But he has got a very eccentric. Even that, like his own. You would think it looked the same, but it's not. And everybody has their own distinct style.
Yeah, and his is very like Fantastic Mr. Fox. You could see like the fur ripples because people are manipulating it, so they don't try and get it like
I love that though.
They don't try and get it. They don't try and get it perfect and pristine. It's more kind of almost like indie filmmaking of stop motion. It's like if his suit is a little rumpled, it's because someone was manipulating it, and so you see like it'll just kind of ripple and as he's doing things, and it's kind of
much like the Rankin-Bass was like that to a certain extent because a lot of those puppets were like furry and there's like felt material and that kind of. So you see exactly.
You see the threads moving and stuff like that.
Even the water, like you could see some hair in the water, like
They had a tremendous pain in the ass too when they stop motion animated the AT-ATs in Empire Strikes Back that they kept moving. They kept moving the snow, so like they'd have to retake because the snow would get accidentally bumped, and it would just be like a frame where the snow would be moving. And like, man, like so many, like just why do they need snow?
You think about all that, man. It's like what still remains one of the best. One of my favorite scenes of Star Wars ever is the Hoth.
And you had the Tauntaun, which was stop motion too.
I can see.
He didn't age as well. The Tauntaun.
Yeah. Did you the ILM? Did you see the documentary on ILM?
Yeah.
Did you actually, or even further? There's a documentary about Phil Tippett, who worked on Empire and such, and that was a really good one. It's tragic. It's sad because he was so into that form, and he didn't really cross over into the the digital era. He didn't embrace it as soon as he should have.
Yeah, and
so he kind of got left behind. In that sense. So they had to, like Jurassic Park, they had to bring him on as a consultant more than because everything was going to be stop motion or go motion. It was like they created a new term, but it was still stop motion. It was still the same thing, but but he just, he just didn't embrace the digital technology at that moment. And so it's kind of sad. So he was like, really, I think he actually was real depressed. And, I think he might've even tried to commit suicide or was thinking about it because of that. It was,
All right. This episode took a turn.
Speaking
we're talking about dark shit anyway, man.
No, it's absolutely true. He didn't pivot with the times. And I as an artist, I'm finding this more and more difficult. And especially, I did an interview with this website that's coming out next week or whatever. They asked me if there's ever been a time that you had to pivot. And I explained that there's something coming in the next 5 years that is concerning to me, because the AI generated artwork. I've been on top of it for the last couple of years, and I actually even subscribed to it because I think it's awesome. I love playing with it and stuff. And within the last 12 months, it's been like, we have a problem here, because some of the stuff that's coming out is
it's learning quicker and quicker.
It's
right?
learning quicker and quicker, and it's getting better and
Yeah.
better. There's photoreal stuff, and it's like artists are going to have to pivot very, very quickly to get out of spaces where their artwork will be done with one. Like, we need to get into like more specialized stuff like video games and that sort of stuff, because of these single image things are going to go away very, very quickly. And the things that sucks about it, I don't want to go off on a rant here, but like you have to feed AI for it to know anything. So they are feeding artwork off of the ether, the internet. They're pulling every human's artwork together, and you can even put into a prompt like, skeleton in the style of MC Escher.
Yeah.
And it'll pull up a perfectly rendered MC Escher style thing. So they have pulled all of MC Escher's artwork together. It's chewing it up and spitting it out in a new thing without his permission, with no permission of any artist and stuff. So it's taking human generated artwork and making inhuman versions of whatever it is. So it's taking subject matter and art form. So like, I can just say like, I want a mermaid in the style of Caravaggio. It will give me almost perfectly. And I can even say with paint cracking in a like a Romanesque frame, and it'll show all of that together. And it's getting almost indistinguishable from actual art. And it's scary. It's very scary for digital artists, because a lot of people view artists as a means to an end, like kind of a pain in the butt. Like, I have an idea, but I don't know how to get, I just got to hire them. So, but people aren't going to need that anymore. They're just going to put in their ideas. And
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with that. It is a shortcut, but is it missing the human element? Is it missing the soul that you put into your artwork?
Yeah, it does.
Does it seem artificial?
There will be people like the people that still buy vinyl albums that want something. But there will be the majority of people that don't want to pay for anything. This is like a Napster coming event.
I don't know. It could come and go. People also might be, this is too creepy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
It could turn, and just like, and it could become a niche thing, just like stop motion has become, right? It's become that thing of, it was popular for a while, right? It seemed like, oh, okay, this James and the Giant Peach. It's like, oh, okay, this is going to come back. And then it kind of, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. At least James and the Giant Peach didn't. But Nightmare Before Christmas endured. And that's the thing about it is why did one endure and one not? Probably the subject material.
It's the characters, it's Christmas, it's the music.
It's the dark thing, right? Jack, it's the darkness of Jack Skellington. People are appealed to that. Like Eric has said, during Halloween, they want that kind of the goth thing. And like I said, it's for, those angst-ridden tweens.
Oh my goodness. Andy and I, we've talked about this endlessly over the years about that. And it's like, you love something so much, and you do take a little bit of ownership to that property, and you think, oh, this is my own special thing, and then all of a sudden, all these goth kids are, they're in a hot topic, and it's all over the place. And I remember, Andy, you getting very disillusioned at that.
Well, it was just too much stuff.
So it was too popular. It just became like this pop cultural thing, and it's still considered a cult classic. Which is astounding to me. For a Disney film,
what a lot of people don't remember, anybody under the age of 20 is not going to remember this, certainly. There was a time when nerds hadn't taken over the planet, and you couldn't go into a
we used to have our own stuff, and nobody liked it,
right?
I mean, it's like you couldn't go to a Walmart and buy a Misfit shirt. You couldn't go to JCPenney and buy something from Nightmare Before Christmas. This is like, nerds hadn't won yet. So certainly no animated feature or any Disney movie had ever looked like this, sounded like this, talked like this. And this movie came out of nowhere, and nobody had seen anything like it. I mean, not even live action movies looked like this. And so like the amount of, it's got the goth elements and that sort of stuff, but it came out of nowhere. And it was just like a wonderful inspirational beam of light to, you know, like the darker kids like that, like me. It was just really, really cool. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
and has
groundbreaking.
It's got a style like nothing else. That's the thing is it doesn't fit in the Disney formula. You can look at the Lion King and Mermaid and Aladdin and all those. Okay, these are animated. It's got a certain thing. And Nightmare Before Christmas has something of its own that Tim Burton has protected too, in a way. He said, I don't want you rolling off, holiday specials each year of this and cheapening it. So so by protecting it, it has been able to stay as it is, right, and not be sullied by they made a second one and it was Valentine's Day and then he looked weird or it's going to be this, and if Tim Burton has its way, it's going to only be this, which is probably a good thing. This way, it kind of preserves the aesthetic of it and it preserves the individuality of it in a time when Disney was just starting to crank. They were getting the machine going. Right, the machine was starting to crank up of pumping out animated stuff, and this was definitely like a one of a kind. Absolutely.
Yeah. And where's this stuff today? We don't really see it anymore.
You're getting Pinocchio.
I'm talking about Disney, like in the sense of like animated features used to be their bread and butter. That was their like. Where are they today? They release a CG animated movie and it just tanks.
Or it goes right to their streaming platform too. They could just push it right to streaming, so you don't even know. Like, the nature of the business has changed so much that
re-releasing the stuff like live action too, which I don't get at all. I don't like any of them.
Tim Burton's guilty of that. He did Dumbo.
Yeah.
He directed the live action Dumbo, so he's got a he's guilty, right? I believe.
I don't know. Was he a hired gun for that, or was his conception, or? What do you
I think that was when that's where his disenfranchisement started, was from that movie.
The bloom was off the rose at that point.
Yeah.
He was done with them. But I think that's going to do it for Nightmare Before Christmas. I think we've covered the bases. We've kind of given, we've taken a little more critical look, analytical, not critical, but a little more analytical, not even drinking, analytical look at this film, but it is a bona fide classic. It is something unique, and it stands out above. I think on Rotten Tomatoes, it's number 1 out of the 25 top like Christmas movies that are rated on Rotten Tomatoes. It's rated as number 1. So, so it's got some street cred there. So, it is available on Disney Plus. So if you've got that streaming service, you can absolutely check it out there. After you watch it, go over to Instagram, type in Andrew Cremeans art. Give that man a follow as well. Watch a Christmas movie, then give Andy a Christmas present. That's the only way to do it. There's a 1-2 punch. Watch a Christmas film, give a present. It's the right way to do it. So find Andrew Cremeans art on Instagram. We'll drop a link into our show notes as we always do. So if you're on Spotify or any of the other ones from your phone, go to the notes. You hit the link. It takes you right there. Pop in a like, and I'm sure Andy would appreciate it too.
Get a little sprinkle of Andy.
Yeah, a light dusting of Andy overnight with lows in the 40s, upper 40s.
There you go.
And a high of 67 degrees.
And
not here.
There'll be like snowflakes. No two alike. It's all different.
That's it. That's it. So that's going to do it for this episode. Andy called it episode 101. So that's what it's going to be. This is episode 101. We are going to the next 100. So Andy, thank you for pushing us off into the ocean of the next 100 episodes. We appreciate it.
Oh man.
Thank you for everything you've done for us.
You have to have me on at the beginning of every 100 or something.
Yeah. 201 or every episode that ends in 1. So 111, 121. That'll be a lot of work.
Yeah. But thanks for having me on to talk about Nightmare Before Christmas, because I could go all day. It's just a visual, musical, artistic masterpiece. Like everything about it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah, it's got everything. It's got story, it's got tragedy, it's got happy, it's got fun characters, it's got dark. It runs the gamut of it. That's what you're getting with Tim Burton.
Zombie babies.
And the zombie Pugsley. That's gonna do it. So for Andy, for Eric, this has been Dean, wishing everybody a happy and safe holiday. Asking you to please grab the copy of this on VHS. And don't forget, be kind. and rewind.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.